on. Recorded in progress. Now, I just read up to from text 1 to 110 to try and again remind us of the context. So I probably won't be able to repeat every detail of those verses that I read. But what I do remember is that Uttara, on hearing the glories of the devotion of Radharani, the Gopis, Mother Yasoda, Nanda Maharaj, etc. And also she's heard about Vaikuntha, but she cannot equate the two. In other words, she rightly concludes, and she gives a wonderful description of Vaikuntha that's given, but she concludes that there must be another place where such devotees of this caliber who actually have such an intimate relationship with Krishna, there must be somewhere else for them to go other than Vaikuntha, where the Lord is worshipped with awe and reverence. Yeah. And at this, Maharaj Parikshit becomes overwhelmed with great ecstasy in the wonderful question that his mother asks. And then he begins to relate a story of a Brahmana who was chanting the Gopal Mantra. And as we've been hearing, that the Gopal, again, this is the story of and originally is the Brahmana. He's to a large degree, he's in ignorance of the identity of the personality behind the mantra, in other words, Gopal, that he is the Supreme Lord from which the Vishnu expansions come from. So he's chanting this Gopal Mantra, and he's touring as well. And he meets sannyasis who speak about liberation, moksha, and he's very impressed with their pure character. But he's not attracted to their, and especially when they start speaking about the forms of the Lord. For instance, he's half man and half lion. This is the Supreme Lord. But as far as he's concerned, that's not his Gopal. And he's more attracted to this Gopal who's appearing in this mantra than he is to the Supreme Lord in his form of half man, half lion. And especially he cannot relate to worshipping the Lord in the fish form and his different forms. So, I mean, he doesn't know that all these forms manifest from Sri Krishna. He's kind of ignorant of that fact. And then he comes to a festival, or he approaches Vaishnavas who are having quite amusing. They're having a big festival, chanting the holy name in Sankirtan, but he sees them as just making a racket. What's all this noise about? Why you keep bowing down on the floor? So then some compassionate Vaishnavas, then they explain to him what they're doing. They're worshipping the Lord. And then, then he meets some sannyasis, and then he has a desire, perhaps I should become one of these sannyasis. So then Lord Gopal appears to him in a dream, says, "You nonsense, you don't take sannyas. You should go on. You should go to Vrindavan." So he does. So then the next day, he, having the instruction from his deity, in the mantra, the personified deity of the mantra, Gopal, then he heads to Vrindavan. And there he can hear a great exclamation of ecstasy and crying. This is in Vrindavan. And he sees his cowherd boy. And at first he thinks it's Gopal, he's a worshipful deity, and he falls down and offers obeisances to this cowherd boy. And then the cowherd boy, listened to his feet, and he concludes, then he lets him know, I am not Gopal. I am not Gopal. But he's also chanting this is Gopal Kumar. This is Gopal Gopal Kumar, actually, who's the center figure of this story. That's who it actually is. And so he then he, in order to educate this Brahmana who's chanting this mantra, he begins to tell his own story to this Brahmana. And this is where we're picking it up. And exactly, it's interesting that we're picking up exactly when he's going to begin telling this story, his story. Yeah. Generally, and he mentions in great humility that generally it's not the done thing to speak about yourself. Yeah. But in this instance, he considers it favorable for educating this Brahmana. Yeah. So just remember, this story is being related by Maharaj Parikshit to Uttara. Yeah. And this story of Maharaj Parikshit speaking to Uttara is being related by Jaimini to Janmijai, Maharaj Parikshit's son. All right. So
A lot in the head.
main thing is to pick up. We're picking up this point here where Gopal Kumar now is telling his own story of his path of perfection. All right, so that's why we're picking it up. We're picking up now at text 111. So yeah, so you can see. Oh, my battery's going to run. 1 second, my battery's going to run low. I've got to plug my computer in. Oh. So that's the context where we just read. It's good I took about 45 minutes out just to kind of read through that to understand myself. So I presume you can all see, because I shared the screen. So those who don't have a copy, you can see okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's then begin reading, and Madhu Mongo has his hand. So I'll leave it up to you. If you're inspired to read the Sanskrit, you can. But if not, there's no problem. You can just read the translation, and that might make the flow a little bit easier if you're not so familiar with the Sanskrit. But if you really...
Well, I will try. Gopalavriter Vaishasya Govardhanani.
But 1 second before we begin. Nama Om Vishnu Padhaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamti Namane Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasesha Sunnivari Pashtatara Sataline Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Okay, so sorry, Madam Mongo, forgot a very important part of reading, to pray. Okay.
Gopalavriter Vaishasya Govardhanani Vashina Putroham Idriso Balaha Puragas Charayanija. I think I made up lots of words, but
Yeah, it might be easier just to read the translation if you're not.
I am a son of Vaishya Govardhan, who made his living as a cowherd. A young boy of that community, I used to tend my own cows. O best of learned Brahmanas, I stayed in the company of other boys that are at Govardhan, here in Vrindavan, the bank of Yamuna, and at various other places in the district of Mathura. Commentary. Now Gopakumara begins his story, which will continue till the end of the 6th chapter. He was born as Vaishya community in a family of cowherds. Many scriptures include Srimad Bhagavatam 10:24-21 describe that Vaishyas may engage in 4 occupations: trade, banking, farming, and cow protection. Shri Vaniyajya Goraksha Kushidam. As this history unfolds, we shall find that although a long time has passed since Gopakumara was an innocent boy at Govardhan, He has no age, he has not aged at all. As he explained later, this was due to a blessing given him by his spiritual master. By the potency of this mantra, may you live a long time. May you always have the form of a cowherd boy, and may you develop the right mentality for tasting the mantra's fruits. Brihad Bhagavamrta 2:191. Gopal Kumara standing a herd of his own cows means that this family was relatively well-to-do and independent. In the course of doing this work, he wandered over the area within the 20 yojanas circumferences of Mathura Mandala. Among the places he used for cows herding, his special favorite were Govardhan, the forest of Vrindavan, and the shores of Yamuna. Sometimes he went to the location in the dam, like Madhava. But according to the one transcendental opinion, Braja Bhumi consists of nothing but Govardhan, Vrindavan, and Yamuna, since these three places pervade the entire dam. In any case, there is no place outside Rajadam where a cowherd can get real benefit from his occupation. Gopakumara addressed his new student by saying, "O best of learned Brahmanas," because the students hail from the Brahmana community of Mathura.
Now, it's just before I continue, just before as I can understand here, this is taking place during the Lord's unmanifest pastimes, apakrata. Yeah, so Boma Vrindavan, apakrata. So he happens to be a cowherd boy in Mathura, in the district of Vrindavan, and he's herding the cows in Govardhan. But as far as I can understand, this is after the Lord's manifest pastimes. Yeah, just to take note. And let's see if that's the case, but I'm pretty sure that is. Yeah. Okay, he can continue.
In the forest, we regularly saw certain first-class Brahmanas wandering from place to place. He was very renowned, and his body appeared like that of a god. Commentary: this person, the boy frequently saw in truth the best of the Brahmanas. His body was golden and very beautiful. He was always chanting the glories of Krishna. Sometimes he sang and sometimes danced, sometimes absorbed in meditation. He chanted his mantra to himself, and sometimes he gave himself over to laughter. Commentary:
Laughter. Yeah.
Laughter, like laughing.
Yeah. Ha 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 ha.
The characteristic of this Brahmana was that he always vibrated Krishna's glory, either with the two syllables named Krishna or with other names of the personality of Godhead. He would sing these names sweetly in various ways. He sometimes appeared withdraw into his private japa and dhyana, which he dutifully performed daily, even though he was already perfect in chanting of the Lord's holy name. As the Tantras prescribe, even a person who has perfected the chanting of his mantra should continue to perform regularly worship through japa and dhyana to show gratitude to his spiritual benefactors. Even if one has perfected his mantra and is completely pure in heart, he should still worship the Lord at the three junctures of the day by the method prescribed, or that least at one of these 3 times he should do this worship, and 108 times he should chant japa of his mantra. When the Brahmana seemed withdraw intent on this prescribed chanting and meditation, in fact his outward sense were inactive, not because he was controlling them out of duty, but because ecstatic love was swelling up within him. Sometimes he shouted, or loudly sobbed, or stumbled and fell to the ground, or rolled about on the ground like a madman. Sometimes he fell unconscious and lay still like a corpse, the flood of his mucus, saliva, and tears turning to the dust on the cow's path into mud. Because the Brahmana was practicing such intense chanting of the Lord's name, he would sometimes feel joy so immense that he would lose outwards consciousness. Sometimes he would collapse without wetting the ground, as described here, and then he would appear to have died. Out of curiosity, we cowherd boys would often come look at him, but when he saw us in front of him, he would bow down to us with devotion. He apparently had great respect for the boys, despite their having no special respect for him. He would heartily embrace us and affectionately cover us with kisses, as he would wear his best friends. He was enabled to give up our company. Immersed in Krishna Prema, this Brahmana was attracted to this village boys because they resemble young Krishna and his cowherd friends. Praya Bandhu has a severe Priya Bandhu has severe meaning, best friends, close relatives, most dear devotees of the Lord and the Supreme Lord, who is dear to his devotees.
Okay, thank you, Mother Mongolpur. There's a few devotees with hands up, so let's have other devotees like to read. So unless there's any comments on this, obviously he's at a stage of perfection, this Brahmana. Let's see where this leads to. Evam Vrata Sapriyanama Kajya. There's one verse that describes simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one comes to the stage of love of Godhead. Then the devotee becomes fixed in his position as an eternal servant of the Lord, and becomes very much attached to a particular name and form of the Supreme Lord. As his heart melts with ecstasy, he laughs very loudly, or shouts and cries, and sometimes he dances like a madman, for he's indifferent to public opinion. That's a verse from Bhagavatam that I'm just relearning from the 11th canto, so it reminded me of that verse. So yeah, any other questions or comments? Otherwise we can call on Mother Krunamai. You like to read for a few minutes? Text 119 now. So remember this cowherd boy who's reciting, who happens to be Gopal Kumar, and Gopal Kumar is reciting his story to this Brahmana who's come to Vrindavan. So Gopal Kumar is now reciting a story of another Brahmana. Yeah, carry on, Mother.
He was pleased with my services, like giving gifts of milk products. One day, meeting me on the shore of Yamuna, he embraced me and spoke in this way. Commentary: Gopal Kumar gave his new friend presents of milk, yogurt, and other milk products, and would also carry his water pot and follow him around. This kind of voluntary service pleased the great soul, who became disposed to give the boy his mercy. My dear child, if you want to fulfill all your desires, and please bathe at Kashigat and then accept me from me.
Keshigat, that's where.
Keshigat.
Yeah, where the Lord jumped into the Yamuna and defeated the Keshi demon. Yeah.
And then accept from me his mercy of the Lord of the universe. Commentary: normally we consider the mercy of the Supreme Lord something intangible. Intangible,
yeah. I think that means inconceivable. It means difficult to reconcile. It's so great, you know.
But the saintly Brahmana called it this mercy, as if it were a tangible object in front of them. He told Gopal Kumar, just take it from me, as if literally placing it in his hands. Thus, after I bathed, he imparted to me the same mantra you are chanting. Although he was fully satisfied in himself and indifferent to material things, he was the crest jewel of all compassionate souls. Commentary. Since Gopal Kumar and his student have been initiated into the same mantra, their relationship should become very friendly. When Gopal Kumar got his mantra, he should not have thought that this was his guru's way of reciprocating the gifts of buttermilk and yogurt. His guru, being fully self-satisfied, did not need the service. Only out of infinite compassion for the fallen souls did the guru show Gopal Kumar his mercy.
Yeah, just a point of interest here is this story is taking place pre-appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Vaishnavas were present, obviously, and they would have mantra, or their guru would give them a mantra. So their mantra here is the Gopal Mantra, which we have also been given, by the way, those who have second initiation. So, but now it's different. Now perfection is achieved through the Maha Mantra by the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But the Vaishnavas would all have a mantra that they would be given. They will be given a deity and a mantra to worship that deity with and to meditate upon and to do puja. Sometimes they would get deity, paraphernalia for puja, and they would get a mantra. So this is what they're speaking of here. So they've been given the Gopal Mantra. Now there's different forms of the Gopal Mantra. We have our form. Sometimes there's a shorter form that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would chant, but in essence, it's the Gopal Mantra. So just a point of interest to note there. This is pre-appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and consequently pre-appearance of the predominance of the Maha Mantra, by which now all Vaishnavas will chant, as well as the Gopal Mantra. Yeah, so is that clear? Or the interesting bit of information there, help us to understand the context a little bit in the time it's taking place, you know? Pre-Gauranga. Or what do they call it when they say before the time of Jesus? What's it called? It's called sorry? Someone say, you know, there's a time they call the years before Jesus.
Before Christ.
Yeah, BC. So we should have the same before Lord Chaitanya.
Before Lord
Yeah, BL. Before Lord Chaitanya, BLC.
Can I ask something?
Yes, please.
But the devotees are not allowed to chant the Gopal Mantra if they want.
Sorry?
Let's say when you second initiated, you receive Gayatri Mantra, and in the Gayatri Mantra, the Gopal Mantra, which you chant 3 times per day, but if you want, you cannot chant Gopal Mantra as many times you want, isn't it? Because we chant in the
you can chant, definitely, but generally there's more than one mantra when one takes second initiation. I think there's the let's count these. There's the Brahma Gayatri, there's the Guru Pranam, there's the Guru Mantra, there's the Gauranga Pranam, there's Gauranga Mantra, there's a Gopal Mantra, and there's a Kamadev Mantra. So it's 5, 6, 7. So you get 7 mantras. Yeah.
8.
And 8. Yeah, 8. Excuse me. Which one did I miss? Anyway, 8. Yeah.
What I mean, devotees are not allowed to repeat the Gopal Mantra as many times they want, like we repeat the Maha Mantra.
Yeah, that's why I was saying that now we have the Maha Mantra. So that's our japa. Yeah, good point you're making. That's our japa. But before Lord Chaitanya, then one's japa would be, for example, the Gopal Mantra, or maybe the Kamadev Mantra. But our mantra is the Maha Mantra. that we chant 108 times. Yeah. And that's given to us by Lord Chaitanya, and it's empowered by chanting that mantra. Also, along with the Gopal Mantra, they kind of work together in helping to clarify a devotee's path of perfection. Yeah. But Vaishnavas these days, they don't put so much emphasis on these other mantras, because now we have the Maha Mantra. Yeah. Is that okay? Is that?
Yeah.
So you can, if you
because
want. I mean, you
it
can
was-
chant it as much as you want. You know, you can chant the Gopal Mantra, but for you to chant the Gopal Mantra, you would have to get permission from your guru. If you wanted to chant it 108 times, 16 rounds of Gopal Mantra. But generally,
Also,
your Guru Maharaj is no, that's not what we've been given by Lord Chaitanya. We've been given the Maha Mantra. So that's what we chant in quantity, which brings you to quality. Like one time a few years ago, there was one sannyasi who since drifted away from ISKCON, and it was a little bit of a controversy because he was proclaiming quite heavily that we should chant the Panchatattva Maha Mantra 16 rounds a day. Sounds very nice. In one sense, you could probably bring up a bit of a philosophy to back that up, you know. But actually, if you do study, and you do study Prabhupada's books, and you do study the books of the Acharyas after Lord Chaitanya, it's quite obvious that we should follow the directions given. And I mean, that's why, for instance, when we, for Mangalati, we should follow Prabhupada, and he instructed that you only chant the Panchatattva Maha Mantra 3 times, and the rest of the balance of the time should chant the Maha Mantra. Yeah. And that's what they do even in Mayapur. You would think, you know, this is a place of Lord Chaitanya, but they're very strict. Whoever sings Mangalati only sings 3 times the Panchatattva Maha Mantra. Then the most of the Mangalatis spent chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this I remember about the mantras and about the predominance of pre-Lord Chaitanya from classes that Bhanu Swami was giving in Mayapur. He was mentioning this point about Vaishnavism and their practice before the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah. So this is the context it's set in. It's before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's why they're speaking about this Gopal Mantra, you know, chanting 108 times, etc., etc. Okay. You can read on, Mava. Sorry, we stopped you there, Kunamai.
He was about to explain the method of worshipping with the mantra, but as soon as he mentioned the object of meditation, he was overcome by pure love of God, became confused, and started crying like a woman separated from her lover. Commentary. Gopal Kumar's guru had the instructions for properly using the mantra just on the tip of his tongue. He was about to tell Gopal Kumar how to touch the body with the syllables of the mantra and how to meditate systematically on the meaning of the mantra and all the other details for reciting the mantra in worship. But as soon as he started to describe the beautiful form of Shriman Madan Gopal, a sudden ecstasy caught hold of him, and crying like a lovesick woman, remembering her distant beloved, he lost his train of thought.
Yeah, so here's here's an account of ecstasy or prema again. But here's also, they would do this as well. They would also, for instance, there's, it's called Tantra. It's called Tantra, where you actually use different mudras, and you invoke the different words of the mantra. onto the body. And even there's mantras where you chant it backwards as well. And you place those mantras in different parts of the body before you begin worship. In other words, you use that as purification. So that's what it's.
Is it like Nashing Kavach?
Yeah, that's it.
Like that?
Yeah, like you read in Bhagavatam, we hear the Narayan Kavacha, we have the Nrsimha Kavacha, and they're to protect the different parts of the body. So,
Is that
but
true? Like installation of deity, they are using Gopal Mantra when they install a certain murti, like I don't know, Gopal Murti, and they use the Gopal Mantra on each side of the body. They recitate it and they put tulasi leaves on it. Is that true like that?
Something like that. I don't know the details exactly, but something like that. And all these activities, that's called tantra. Yeah. Sometimes when you hear the word tantra, sometimes you hear that the Vaishnav rituals are tantra. Tantra means methods of using mantras and methods of worship and purification. Sometimes when we hear the word tantra, we think like black magic or something like that. Of course, there are some tantric, when you hear about tantric worship, then that gets very tamasic and very much in the mode of ignorance, therefore inciting for so-called spiritualizing lusty desires. We don't go there. That is also another meaning of tantra, like black tantra. But tantra in its original form is the different methods that's used to worship the Lord. Okay. So let's read on about this. So Hare Krishna. You can read another couple.
Can I ask quickly,
yes,
a very quick question? I know that Varahi is being worshipped by tantrics, but also by Vaishnavas.
Who? Vara?
Varahi, wife of Varaha. It's Vaishnavas also worshipping, not worshipping, like devotee, yeah. But they chant mantras and they chant serve like devotee, yeah. But not in that way that tantrics do. There is another way, but Vaishnavas also do. Do you know anything? Can you explain it?
You mean the wife of Vrahadev? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I can't comment on that. Actually, I don't know the details of that particular type of worship. All I can say is that there are many Vaishnavas who have many different worshipable deities, and their sadhana may differ in detail.
Yes.
So it's not surprising. Like even when we read in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the sadhana or the practice of the sages whom Narada Muni was serving, then they would engage they would chant mantras, but they would also engage in smaran, dhyana, in a meditation upon Krishna. And that's what Narada Muni then practiced, closed his eyes and meditated upon the form of Vishnu. Yeah, so Vaishnavas, in different lines, different paramparas, they will have their worshipable deity and their means for worshipping that deity. Yeah, and they will be different, but all focused on the forms of Krishna, Vishnu Tattva. Yeah, they won't worship demigods. They will worship the different forms of the Lord. Yeah, so sorry I can't elaborate any more on specifically that method of worship.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay, you can read a few more verses, Mavakurunamai, then we're cool on Anupama to read. 123 now, is that correct? Or
yeah, 123.
Yeah.
When he regained normal consciousness, I was afraid to ask him anything. He stood up and went away, distressed. And after that, he was nowhere to be found. Commentary. Having just received initiation, Gopal Kumar felt deep reverence for his spiritual master, and without first being spoken to, as he dared not say anything, he feared he might have done something offensive to upset his guru, and thought that if he said anything wrong, his guru might start crying again. Why didn't the saintly Brahmana give the missing instructions unasked? In this ecstatic mood, he was unhappy and distracted, so he went away saying nothing more. And because he had no fixed residence, he was not to be found again.
Right. So this is interesting. So Gopal Kumar thinks that the reaction of his guru going to ecstasy, he thinks he might have said something wrong to him. So he's only given him half initiation. He was giving him initiation to Gopal Mantra. Then his guru has got into a great, that's been a great udipan of ecstasy. And because it looks like Gopal Kumar a little bit confused at this point. You know, he's scared to say anything in case his guru starts crying again. You can see he's quite an innocent boy.
Yes.
You know? It's kind of like some innocence, you know. So yeah, and because he was not to be found again. Okay. Yeah, look, he can read another verse. He can read 24, then
Okay. I had no idea what this mantra was that I had received, what fruit its chanting would bear,
what's happening
or
here?
even
Sorry,
how the mantra was to be practiced. Commentary. Gopal Kumar did not even know the name of this 10-syllable mantra. Was the mantra meant to be sung out loud or chanted quietly? Or was it a mantra at all? If it was powerful, when chanted perfectly, what fruit would it bear? His guru had told him that the mantra would fulfill all his desires, but that was vague. Until now, Gopal Kumar had never thought seriously about his ultimate desires and goals.
Okay. So we should be educated in the mantra that we have been given. Yeah. And which is the Maha Mantra. Yeah. And the Maha Mantra is basically should take us to Goloka Vrindavan and take us to a specific service of the Lord. So it's a very important part of receiving a mantra is you get the siddhanta behind it. What is the mantra? What's the goal of the mantra? How to chant it, etc. Like we chant it quietly and we also chant it loudly. That's been given to us. But there's some mantras, as you know, like the Gayatri mantra, that the instruction there is to chant it quietly. So Gopal Kumar is confused. He hasn't had those instructions from his guru. His guru went into ecstasy and is now in another place. All right. So Anupama Mother, you like to read from text 125?
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Oh, no, please excuse me, but every time I shift the page, it takes me back to 112. So excuse me to see me flicking through pages. You just carry on, Mother.
Okay. Simply out of respect for the Brahmana's words, I constantly murmured this mantra in secluded places, unseen by others. I chanted it just out of curiosity. Gopal Kumara, aware of his ignorance of the true nature of the mantra, was embarrassed to chant it in public, but it certainly fascinated him. By the influence of that great person, even such aimless chanting purified my mind, and I developed faith in the mantra. Without scientific knowledge of its practice and significance, the young sadhaka, Gopal Kumar, could hardly have solid faith in the mantra. He was not firmly convinced of its efficacy, nor was he affectionately attracted to it. Nonetheless, his naive chanting purified his mind out of lust, envy, and greed. Contemplating my guru's words, I understood the mantra to be the means for achieving the Lord of the universe. Thus I became satisfied and absorbed in chanting. Gopal Kumar's guru had told him, accept the Supreme Lord's mercy. Remembering this, Gopal Kumara concluded that the mantra was meant for obtaining the favor of the Supreme Lord. This was satisfying reason to take enthusiastically to the chanting. I became eager to know who this Lord of the universe was and when I might be able to see him. With this as my only aspiration, I abandoned my home and other attachments and went back to the bank of the Ganga. Wanting to identify the Lord of the universe, Gopal Kumar compared him to familiar people and things, but he could find no clue in the place where he had been brought up. So he left home to wander in search of the Lord. Hearing the distant sound of the conch shell being blown, I followed the sound to its origin on a sandy bank of the river. There I saw a learned Brahmana worshipping a Saligram Shila and I bowed down. I asked him, Master, what are you worshipping? Laughing, he replied, Dear boy, don't you know that this is the Lord of the universe? The worshipper was surprised that anyone, even a child, wouldn't know that Shri Saligrama is a direct incarnation of the Lord of the universe. Hearing this, I felt unlimited happiness, like a poor man finding a welcome treasure or a family man reuniting with a long-lost relative. I gazed for a long time at the Lord of the universe and with faith bowed down to him, my whole body flat on the ground like a rod. By the Brahmana's mercy, I received some water that had washed the Lord's feet and some remnants of offering to him. With newborn faith and affection for the Lord in his Shaligram form, Gopal Kumar happily accepted the Lord's Charnamrita, along with remnants of tulsi leaves and other items earlier offered to the Lord. Then the Brahmana, preparing to return home, laid the Lord of the universe to rest in a box. Pained to see this, I tearfully complained in this way.
All right, he doesn't like that. He doesn't understand worship. So the Lord in a box. So he's put the Lord in a box, bring him out, worship him, put him in a box, and close the lid. So let's see what his complaints are.
My God, you're putting the Supreme Lord into a box, such an unfit place, and he hasn't even eaten. How will he sleep if he's hungry? Gopal Kumar saw the little box an ill-chosen place for the Lord of the universe, told that that being placed in such a box is what is done with the deity after worship to him is finished. Gopal Kumar replied that he had not seen the Brahmana make an offering of food substantial enough to satisfy the Lord's appetite, and the Lord should not be forced to sleep without first being fed.
So you can understand in one sense that he's probably used to worship in temples where deities have been worshipped in temples. It's not like after we offer Raj Bhog, then we put Landadeshwar in a box. Don't
It's
do
very
that.
nice, very sweet.
So so his innocence, he's seeing this, he's accepted the on word that it's the Supreme Lord, and his guru told him, if you chant this mantra, you'll be able to see the Lord of the universe. So now he's told that this Shalagram Shila is the Lord of the universe, but now Brahmanan puts him in a box, so he cannot understand. He can't understand. So you can. Oh God.
Oh, excellent Brahmana from Mathura. Because of my material conditioning, I was unaware that the Lord of the universe is different from everyone and everything in this world. Gopal Kumar was ignorant of the Supreme Person's transcendental nature. The Lord can enjoy himself everywhere simultaneously by expanding into an infinite number of forms. There is no reason to worry that he will go hungry because of one devotee's neglect. He may seem to be a small stone trapped in a box, but in fact the Lord is unlimited. As I complained that suffered in my uncontrived lamentation, the Brahmana tried to console me. Full of humility, he shyly spoke. The saintly Brahmana was ashamed of being too poor to feed even a human guest. What to speak of the Supreme Lord? And in fact, the place where he had now performed his worship simply had no facilities for cooking. But the humility the Brahmana felt was not caused by any external circumstance. It was a natural ecstasy of his individual type of love of God. O new Vaishnav, he said, what more can this poor man do? I can offer to the Lord of the universe only the meals I prepare for myself. The Brahmana who lived near the Ganga thought, but this cowherd boy had never seen a Brahmana like me worshipping Shaligram Shila. He must be new to spiritual life. If you're eager to see the Lord's opulence and a great festival of his worship, please go to the capital city of this country's very saintly ruler. He's attached to the worship of Lord Vishnu in great love. You'll find his city not far away, and there you behold the Lord of the universe, who is so difficult to see. The king of this district on the shore of the Ganga was a sincere Vaishnava, which made him a great saint than any Kami, Jnani, or ordinary yogi. He worshipped the deity of Lord Vishnu with festive opulence. If Gopal Kumar liked, he could go to the capital and see for himself this king's wonderful worship. He could see the Lord's beauty, the rich offerings made to the Lord, and his luxurious sleeping quarters. The opulences of the king's deity were much more readily visible than those of the poor Brahmanas, Shaligram Shila. You will feel great ecstasy, fulfilling all your heart's desires. But for now, please come have lunch in my house from the remnants of what has been offered to Lord Vishnu. Gopal Kumar will certainly feel bliss if he witnesses the opulence of the Vishnu deity in the royal city, hears the songs and prayers recited for the pleasure of the Lord, and tastes the remnants of food offered to the Lord. The Brahmana admits that devotees who have pure love for the Lord prefer to see him worship with suitable opulence, opulence that he, a poor man, cannot provide for his own deity. Gopal Kumara should therefore at once go to the capital, but before he goes, he should have lunch at the Brahmana's house, where he can taste what little rice and other items have been offered this morning to the Brahmana's Shaligram deity. Delighted by the Brahmana's words, I offered him my obeisances, and without stopping at his house, even though hungry, I set off for the capital by the road he pointed out. Gopal Kumara repeatedly prostrated himself before the Brahmana with great devotion. He did this partly to beg pardon for declining the Brahmana's invitation, and partly to beg blessings for an auspicious journey. Within the inner precincts of the city, from a distance, I heard the sound of temple worship of the Lord of the universe. I had never heard such a tumult.
Tumult means noise. I've never heard such a racket before, such a noise.
So I asked about it from people nearby. The noise Gopal Kumar heard came from the Lord's Aarti ceremony in the royal temple, where many devotees were chanting and playing musical instruments. The sound impressed Gopal Kumar as very wonderful. Learning that the Lord of the universe was being worshipped, I wanted to see him. As I approached, no one stopped me, so I quickly entered the temple, where in front of me I beheld the beautiful four-armed form of the Lord, his hands resplendent with a conch shell, disc, lotus, and club. The guards at the door of the temple neither questioned Gopal Kumara nor blocked his entrance, so he eagerly ran inside. There he saw the deity of Vishnu, whose beauty and opulence more than fulfilled the Brahmana's predictions and Gopal Kumar's own expectations. The forearms of the Lord resembled the bodies of mighty serpents. All the parts of his body were exquisitely attractive, and his complexion resembled a new rain cloud. Words can hardly describe his youthful body, dressed in yellow silk, ornamented with gold and garlanded with forest flowers that increased his beauty. His face, with his sweet nectarian smile and lotus-like eyes, appeared like the full moon. Beginning from his eyes and mouth, every part of Lord Vishnu's body was enchanting. Gopal Kumar could only compare his beauty to that of the most beautiful things he knew, a rain cloud, the moon, and lotus flowers. While many attendants, fondly attached to serving him, worshipped him with various rare items, he stood on an excellent throne and from a distance watched the dancing and other entertainment presented before him. Every sort of wonderful paraphernalia was being engaged for his pleasure. As the most precious items to be found were presented to the Lord, one after another, His personal attendants waved chamara fans intently and offered him betel nut and other refreshments. In the midst of all this, instead of coming forward to meet the crowd, he stood on his own throne and acknowledged the entertainment going on further away by watching with unblinking eyes. Filled with supreme bliss, I repeatedly fell flat on the ground. Today, I thought, I have seen what I always wanted to see. Now my life is a success. I shall never go away from this place. And so by the mercy of the Vaishnavas, I began to live there happily. Gopal Kumar had left his family and friends to wander in search of his worshipful Lord, and now have found him. Although as a penniless beggar from a foreign country, Gopal Kumar could hardly expect to be allowed to stay in the neighborhood of the royal palace and dine on the remnants of the king's deity. The local Vaishnavas were kind to him. They brought him Mahaprasad and did everything possible to encourage and protect him. I would eat remnants of food offered to Lord Vishnu, witness the great festivals of his worship, and hear the glories of his worship and more, all the while carefully chanting my mantra in private. While residing with the Vaishnavas who serve the deity of the Lord Vishnu, Gopal Kumara heard from them the glories of worship of Vishnu as described in various Puranas and other scriptures. He heard that worshipping Vishnu is the highest activity for human beings, and he heard specific instructions about various aspects of his worship. We also heard about the glories of Lord Vishnu's prasada. All the benefits ascribed to the vow of fasting for 6 months are gained in Kali Yuga, but those who eat food mixed with the remnants of Lord Vishnu. From all these instructions, however, Gopal Kumar did not receive a complete systematic spiritual education. No one told him, for example, about such basic matters as the existence of higher planets, like the Swarga of Lord Indra. The Vaishnavas were unaware that Gopal Kumar, despite his saintly qualities, had never had any training. Thus he remained naive about the complexities of the material world.
Okay, thank you, Anupama Mother. So we might guess where this might be going. So he's become very much enamored and attracted by this kingly worship. And it's a wonderful example of temple worship here, or here we see, especially in South India, I would imagine this probably. The Lord is worshipped in so much, with so much paraphernalia, so much reverence by the whole city. We could see remnants of that when you go to South India, in the big temples there, and you go to Puri, and if you go to Mayapur, everyone there is absorbed in the beautiful worship of the deities. So, but he's gonna, but remember, he's enchanted very much by sweet Gopal, so he's going to start feeling a little bit restless. Yeah, so that's my guess. As we know, the basic story. So, Mother Chandravali, you like to lead us to 7 o'clock. Now, please forgive me. There's some bug in this book here on my computer, so it keeps jumping back to text 120, so I have to flick through. So I hope it's not too much of a distraction.
Right side of the screen when he's jumping, there is something orange there, like a bookmark. Maybe that's why he's jumping. It's when he's jumping, you're gonna see it orange on the right.
Okay. At the moment, the screen's clear. I can't see anything. So anyway, you continue reading, Mother Chandravali, and I'll try and deal with it at this end.
149, right?
Yeah.
Yet my heart, O Brahmana, never forgot the beauty of this Raj Bhumi and the joy of playing here as a coward. Commentary. Gopal Kumar's
Indeligible, yeah.
Recollection of Rajtam, far from being just sentimental, were a sign that by chanting his mantra, he was reaping transcendental results. The public opulence of Lord Vishnu's worship did not attract him more than the simple happiness of wondering about the fields of Raj. While sleeping or awake, he would just forget, he could not
Not-
forget Raj. Even while he took part in Lord Vishnu's festival, thought of Raj Bhumi lingered in his mind.
Yeah, so as we said,
Yeah.
this is
So remaining thus for
Yep.
some days in that place, I developed great eagerness to engage in that method of worship. Gopal Kumar was eager to reciprocate in a personal way with the Lord of the universe, and the opulent worship in Vishnu's temple seemed such a way. The king of that country was sonless, and despite my being a foreigner, he noted my good character and he developed affection for me. But soon after finally adopting me as his son, he died. Okay. After inheriting his kingdom, I made even more elaborate the joyful worship of Lord Vishnu. Every day, saintly person were fed with remnants of food from this worship. Simple souls that he was, Gopal Kumar accepted his material elevation as a chance to increase his devotional service. As king, he saw to it that Lord Vishnu's worship was improved and that the Lord's mercy was distributed as widely as possible. Okay, shall we stop?
yeah. Let's just one second. I can't even stop sharing now. It's not even let me do that. So something's frozen my computer here. Anyway, perhaps we're paused there. But can you just read that verse again, Mother Chandravali? Because I was distracted by trying to work.
After inheriting his kingdom, I made even more elaborate the joyful worship of Lord Vishnu. Every day, saintly persons were fed with remnants of food from this worship. So, like when he became the king, then he even developed more of the higher form of worship.
Oh,
Yeah.
so Gopal Kumar's become the king now. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, the king adopted him as a son because he didn't have any son.
Oh, okay,
then-
okay.
So he took over the kingdom.
Yeah, yeah. So this is how the story unfolds. I think those who've heard the story before, then I think he becomes even Lord Brahma at one point.
Yes,
Lord
yes,
Shiva,
yes.
Lord Brahma, and but still it's very interesting because in his innocence, he is already in a place of perfection and he has an attraction of perfection. But in his innocence, because he wasn't given complete knowledge of the mantra, he's still searching for the absolute truth. He doesn't know. All right.
In the beginning, when we were reading the first book, it was like Brahmana from Prayag, King, Indra, like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of going the same way. But this time it's Gopal Kumar telling the story.
Yeah. And that the first part it ended up in Uddhava, and then they're hearing about Raj, about the glory of Raj in the worship. So similar here. So it's wonderful how Sanatana Goswami. So in other words, what he's doing, he's taken Gopal Kumar and taken us through all the different varieties of worship and all the different realms of the universe. But the essence is that the highest realm with the highest rasa and the sweetest rasa is in Vrindavan. So that's the essence of it.
What
All right.
I was in the beginning when we were reading, like from Brahmana to king. But now when he was with the Brahmana, he was still remembering the Raj. He was missing the Raj. So what's going to happen? What I think is going to happen, like he's become the king and he's elaborated the worship, but in a little while he's going to get a bit fed up and start thinking about Raj again. So he'll be like going forward.
Yeah, he's going to think the grass is greener on the other
Yeah.
side. He's not feeling satisfied.
Yeah, he's
In-
not going to be satisfied.
yeah,
Then
in comparison to what he's experiencing, Raj, and in relation to the Gopal Mantra.
yeah.
Mhm.
As he's chanting, he's going to like, okay, this is not for me. And then he'll
Mhm.
move on.
Yeah.
I think. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay, so let's pause there then for today. And again, for those of you who want, we're gonna this is recorded, so we'll put it up there tomorrow. If you want to just go over a section again, or someone amongst your group, Chandravali, who missed it, they can tune in. So thank you,
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And you're reading tomorrow. You're continuing reading Leelamrita.
Wow, it's
Some
really,
fun with that.
really
Okay.
beautiful.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Muli Prabhu ki jai. Thank you so much, all.
Hari
Thank you so
Bol.
much.